Prince Harry's grand plans to return to the UK have suffered a sobering setback. He's been ordered to fork out millions to the Daily Mail after losing a high-profile court battle. But it's not all bad news for the Sussexes, with Meghan on the verge of a surprise acting comeback.
Breaking news, and Meghan Markle has reportedly been dropped from Guy Ritchie's The Gentleman. The former editor-in-chief from Vanity Fair says the backlash in the UK was so intense they could not move forward with the casting. The Duchess was reportedly in advanced talks to join season 3 of the show.
The Sussex empire is not merely cracking, it is allegedly collapsing from the inside out, with Meghan Markle's Hollywood ambitions, Prince Harry's mounting legal disaster, and their shrinking British relevance converging into one explosive royal crisis. What if the glamorous escape from royal life was never the triumph they sold to the world? What if, behind the polished photographs and carefully engineered headlines, the entire Sussex strategy has reached the point where every door is closing at once? Welcome to a Monday morning in late August 2026, because the story surrounding Prince Harry and Meghan Markle has suddenly taken a darker and far more dramatic turn. What began as whispers about professional setbacks and royal tensions is now being portrayed as a full-scale collapse across 3 brutally important fronts: money, Hollywood credibility, and public standing in Britain. And the timing is extraordinary. Within what appears to be barely 24 hours, one controversy after another has landed directly on the Sussex doorstep. First came the astonishing casting rumor surrounding Meghan Markle and acclaimed British director Guy Ritchie. The figure being whispered about was a staggering £1 million attached to a supposed acting comeback in the Netflix series The Gentleman. On paper, it sounded like the perfect Hollywood rescue story. A former royal duchess returning to the profession that made her famous, stepping into a fashionable British crime drama, and supposedly commanding a premium payday while reconnecting herself with the entertainment world. But then came the backlash. Almost immediately, the rumor reportedly triggered a furious reaction from viewers, critics, entertainment commentators, and online communities. Instead of generating excitement, the proposed casting became the controversy. The very publicity that was apparently intended to make Meghan Markle look commercially irresistible suddenly threatened to make her look commercially radioactive. And that is where the story becomes truly fascinating. Because in Hollywood, sometimes the most revealing response is not an announcement, it is silence. According to the narrative surrounding this developing controversy, Guy Ritchie and senior production figures quickly distanced themselves from the idea, while Netflix reportedly clarified that no formal contract had been prepared and no official acting offer existed. In other words, what was supposed to look like a triumphant comeback suddenly appeared to evaporate before it had even become real. For Meghan Markle, that distinction is devastating. There is an enormous difference between losing a role and never actually having one. One suggests competition. The other raises a much more uncomfortable question: was the supposed £1 million opportunity ever anything more than a carefully floated possibility designed to create momentum? And that question becomes even more explosive when the timing is considered. Meghan Markle's lifestyle venture, as portrayed in this account, was already facing trademark complications, supply chain problems, and inventory difficulties. So why would a communications team suddenly need a major entertainment victory? Why introduce the image of a £1 million acting comeback at precisely this moment? Was it intended to change the conversation? If so, it spectacularly backfired, because instead of the headlines becoming Meghan Markle returns to acting, the conversation became whether audiences would even accept her presence in the production. The publicity machine had apparently attempted to manufacture anticipation, only for the reaction to expose something far more uncomfortable: the gap between celebrity visibility and genuine industry demand. And while Meghan Markle was allegedly dealing with that humiliation, Prince Harry was confronting a far more dangerous battlefield thousands of miles away. London. For years, Prince Harry has pursued an aggressive legal campaign against Associated Newspapers, the publisher behind the Daily Mail and Mail on Sunday. The dispute has involved allegations concerning unlawful information gathering and privacy, producing years of legal arguments, hearings, lawyers, evidence, and enormous financial exposure. Now the financial consequences have become the center of the storm. The account presented here claims that Mr. Justice Nicholin ordered an immediate interim payment of $9.5 million, while the wider legal costs being demanded have reportedly climbed toward an extraordinary $34.5 million. If those figures stand, this is no ordinary courtroom setback. This is the kind of financial pressure capable of transforming a legal dispute into a personal economic emergency. And then comes the question neither of them can escape: how long can a lifestyle built around enormous expenditure survive when the revenue streams begin begin disappearing. That is where the Montecito dream starts looking very different. The estate that once symbolized independence, privacy, and freedom from royal restrictions can instead be viewed as an enormous financial obligation. Property taxes, mortgage costs, maintenance, staff, landscaping, insurance, utilities, and constant security do not care about celebrity status. They must be paid every month. And according to the figures presented in this account, the basic carrying costs alone could reach well over $1 million annually. And that is precisely where the alleged separation strategy enters the picture. According to the narrative now surrounding Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, the solution to their escalating domestic and financial crisis is not an immediate divorce, but something far more calculated: distance without dissolution. The idea is to preserve the legal and commercial appearance of a functioning marriage while allowing both individuals to live increasingly separate lives. The historical comparison being invoked is the so-called Kent separation model, associated with Prince and Princess Michael of Kent, where public obligations could remain intact even while private lives operated along very different tracks. For the Sussexes, however, the alleged plan is even more dramatic. Prince Harry would return to Britain and establish an independent base in the Cotswolds, reconnecting with old friends and the countryside he left behind, while Meghan Markle would remain in California, concentrating on her lifestyle business, American media relationships, and the children. Thousands of miles would separate them, yet carefully selected public appearances would preserve the image of unity whenever commercial value demanded it. It would be marriage as brand architecture rather than marriage as ordinary domestic life. But the story does not end with geographical separation, because Prince Harry's return to Britain allegedly comes with another calculated objective: monetizing proximity to royalty without actually being part of the working monarchy. This is where the controversial concept of proxy royalty enters. The strategy, as described in this narrative, would involve private charity visits, community appearances, youth events, carefully staged arrivals, professional production crews, controlled camera angles, and polished international footage designed to create the visual impression of royal duty without constitutional authority. The Sussexes could appear beside charity workers, greet carefully selected crowds, and package those moments for overseas broadcasters and commercial partners. The distinction would be crucial. They would not be representing the crown. They would be representing themselves while deliberately borrowing the visual language of the crown. And that creates the central contradiction: how do you sell royal glamour when the institution itself has withdrawn the invitation? The answer allegedly would be spectacle, expensive security, carefully selected locations, private media crews, dramatic arrivals, intimate photographs, footage edited to emphasize enthusiasm and minimize empty spaces. Every detail would become part of the product. The projected spending could reportedly reach millions of pounds annually simply to maintain that appearance. But there is one problem that no production company can manufacture indefinitely: genuine public interest. If the British public does not care, the cameras cannot create an authentic crowd. If people do not turn out, no clever editing can manufacture national enthusiasm forever. That brings the story to the polling controversy. The narrative claims that late August polling showed only a small minority supporting a Sussex return to Britain, while a much larger proportion expressed opposition or complete indifference. And indifference commercially can be more dangerous than outrage. Anger creates clicks. Anger creates television debates. Anger creates headlines. But indifference creates silence. If the public simply stops watching, the entire controversy machine loses its fuel. The Sussex strategy, therefore, would face an uncomfortable enemy: not hatred, but exhaustion. After years of interviews, documentaries, accusations, memoirs, and counter-accusations, the public may simply be reaching the point where it wants the drama to disappear. And with that pressure mounting, the narrative introduces an even more explosive development involving Earl Charles Spencer. The allegation is that Prince Harry has turned toward his maternal uncle as part of a new commercial strategy centered on Princess Diana's legacy. The claimed financial pressure surrounding Earl Charles Spencer allegedly created an opportunity for an alliance involving access to private Elthorpe archives, unseen photographs, personal letters, and estate filming. In return, Prince Harry could potentially use his international media connections to pursue a major streaming distribution arrangement. The irony is almost unbearable. At Princess Diana's funeral, Earl Charles Spencer publicly spoke about protecting her sons from exploitation. Decades later, the allegation is that the same family legacy could become the foundation of a lucrative entertainment project. That is precisely the development that would reportedly infuriate Prince William. The alleged commercial use of Princess Diana's private history would not merely be another business disagreement. It would strike directly at family trust, memory, and the boundaries surrounding their mother's legacy. The story places the confrontation at Balmoral Castle, where Prince William is portrayed as taking an increasingly dominant role in protecting the future interests of the monarchy. According to this narrative, intelligence concerning the Ilthort filming proposal, the proxy royalty strategy, and the enormous financial pressure surrounding Prince Harry's return reached the royal household at the same moment. And then came the confrontation with King Charles III. Because if Prince Harry is genuinely preparing to return to Britain while simultaneously building an independent commercial operation around his royal identity and his mother's legacy, the palace faces a question it cannot avoid. Where does private enterprise end and royal inheritance begin? That is the fault line now running through the entire story. The Sussex brand was built on separation from the institution, yet every proposed route back to relevance appears to depend upon the very institution they walked away from. And if Prince William and King Charles III decide that the boundary has finally been crossed, the next move may no longer be a family disagreement behind palace doors. It may become a public battle over who gets to define what the Windsor name and the memory of Princess Diana can still be used to sell.